Hi, this is Virendra Singh from ToolsQA.com. I welcome you to class number 6 on Cucumber in Java. In this class, we will talk about capture groups and we will try to understand how we can take input arguments from our scenario steps. Before I move forward and discuss the agenda for the class, let me just quickly do a recap of what we did earlier. So if I go back to the project which we had till the 5th class, you would see that we would have a feature file. The feature file will contain one login test. The login test will have some steps, and then each step will have a respective step definition here in your step definition or glue code file. Now, these are the 4 step definitions that we have, and each one corresponds to a given step in the login feature file. Now, if you look at the step definitions, all the step definitions starts with given, when, and then, and then at the rate annotations. Now, the key point to discuss today in this class would be to understand what exactly this part of the given annotation is. So this was pretty much what we did earlier, and let's see what we can learn about the different annotations and the components of this particular annotation in this class. So I will just quickly go back and I will take you through the agenda today. The agenda for today is, first we will understand at the rate annotation and we'll understand what the string component is. Second, we will talk about capture groups. Third, we will talk about regular expressions and anchors. Fourth, we will talk about the dot and the asterisk operator. And fifth, we will talk about creating a capture group from a URL. Now, what is a capture group? A capture group is basically a way to take input arguments from your scenario steps. So let us see what I mean by that. But before starting, I will pick up the first topic, which is dissecting at the rate annotations. Now, today, I don't have any further slides because in today's class, we will be talking more about the code and we will be looking at the code more. So the first topic is dissecting at the rate annotations. Now, every method that you write, every test method that you write in your glue code, it takes meaning for Cucumber only when there is a annotation associated with it. Now the annotation here at the rate given, at the rate when are basically exactly the step types. So given step will have a at the rate given annotation, when will have a at the rate when annotation. Similarly, at the rate n and at the rate then annotations will be part of your step definitions. Now, you specify the annotation, the respective annotation, but at the same time, you specify a string value. What is the string value? And you would see that the string value is in every case. Now, more important is the string value as compared to at the rate given. So this string value has to represent what you have written here, here in front of every step. So this value that you have written here, it has to match to the value that you get here. And that is the only way Cucumber finds out what test method it needs to execute for a particular step, scenario step. Right. So this string here, it plays a very important role in making sure that this method is associated with the right method here, a right step here. Right. So this string is basically called a regular expression. It's a regular expression, which means it is a pattern, a string pattern, which represents what you have written here. So here you would see that you have written user is on store.demoqa.com. Here it is converted into user is on store. This is a dot, but dot has a special meaning in regular expressions, so it cannot be represented directly as dot. It has to be escaped. So to escape a dot, you do a double slash. So basically this means a dot. So essentially this whole string is store dot demoqa dot com. So basically this is exactly what you have written in the feature file, but there are two things that are appended two special characters that are appended and prepended to the uh, string. One is the dollar, which is added at the end, and one is the hat operator, which is added in the front. Now collectively they form a regular expression. A regular expression represents uh, a pattern which is similar to what you have written here. Right, so this is what a regular expression is. You can learn more about regular expression if you simply type Java regular expressions in your Google search bar. If you simply say regular expressions, you can get a lot of tutorials about regular expressions. Regular expression is a common feature across all the languages, and it is used to find out patterns in your string, to represent a string which follows a particular pattern. We will talk about it in a few minutes, but before I jump into that, let me ask you a simple question. What will happen if someone in your team writes the same method, same step, which is user is on store.demoqa.com in a different way? Let's say the uh, other other user in your team is writing a test and he ends up saying navigates to store.demoqa.com. In that case, what will happen? So you already have a method which takes you to the demoqa.com page, but what will happen, this is the method, what will happen if someone else tries to express the same information in a different way? Right, this is the different way. In this case, it's just user navigates to store.demoqa.com. Right, so what will happen? If you run this test, you will see that there will be a missing step definition because this particular statement won't be able to find a step definition here, because the step definition doesn't talk about navigate, it talks about user is on. It doesn't talk about user navigates to. So basically you would get a missing step definition. So if I run this, let us just quickly run this. I will go to Cucumber Runner, I will do a run as, and I will do a JUnit test. So when I do this, and if I look at the logs, you would see that I will get a missing step definition. And what I'm suggested right now is that uh, the given annotation, this particular method can be implemented using this particular string, which is exactly same as what I have written here in the step user in the scenario step, right? But the important point to understand here is that uh, a team can contain multiple people and multiple team members, and multiple team members can have different ways of expressing the same information, right? So how can we cater to those problems? How can we uh, create a step definition which can be used in multiple scenarios? For example, if you look at this method here, this method essentially means a step definition to navigate to a URL. Right, this is all it means. You need a step definition which navigates to a particular URL. Now you can express the same information in multiple ways. You can write multiple strings here, but essentially it means that you want to navigate to a particular URL. Now we will talk about how we can achieve that, how we can create a step method which can represent multiple string values, but multiple strings or multiple ways of expression. But at this point in time, I will just stop there and I will recap what I just said. I will recap what @annotation is divided into. So the first part is the annotation name, and the second part is the string value, which is uh, basically a regular expression, which is trying to uh, expose a pattern which might represent what you have written here. So this is what we learned till now. If you're not able to exactly get what I am saying, don't worry about it, because as we move forward in the class, we will understand it in more details. So let me just quickly go back to the slide and let's see what we have. The next step is what is capture group. But before going into capture group, I would quickly show you one more example here. In this example, I would like to explain what the hat operator and the uh, dollar operator is all about. So if you go ahead and if you remove these two operators, let's say if you do something like this, so would your test work now? And let me just go back and let me change it to user is on instead of the new value that we had. So we will just say that this is the string and we have a step definition here, but what I did was I removed the hat operator and the dollar sign at the end, unlike the others where we have the dollar and the hat operator. So what will happen now? So let us just run the test and let's see what happens. So when you run the test, you would see that everything will run just fine. You would see that Chrome is launched and it will navigate to store.demoqa.com and it will perform the relevant actions which are mentioned in the other steps. So here you can see that it has just logged in. So basically everything happened as it was supposed to happen. But then if everything works fine, why do we have hat and dollar operator appended and prepended to the string that we mentioned here in the step definition, in the scenario step? Why is it that we have those two extra characters? Now to understand that, let me just rewrite the given statement and let me just say that instead of writing user is on store.demoqa.com, if I say user is on store.demoqa.com on production. Now these two words, they add more meaning to the step definition. You can see that it now says that this URL should be from production. But what we have written here as a step definition is simply a method which talks about just the URL. It doesn't talk about what kind of environment you are on. So it doesn't talk about whether you are in production or any other environment. So what will happen if I make a small modification, if I add something at the end of the string, what will happen? So let us just see and let me run the test again. So when you run the test, you would see that again it opens up the method. It opens up the browser and it navigates to the respective page and it will do whatever the test is supposed to do. Now the problem is that even though this particular string doesn't represent what you have written here in the step definition, still this particular step was picked up against this particular given step. Why was it so? So the reason for this is that when we added a dollar operator at the end, it meant that the string that you are mentioning in the scenario step, it should end exactly at com, right? It shouldn't go any further than that. But when we remove this, it means that anything could come after .com. There could be anything after that, and still the string would match. So basically, Cucumber will just try to match the first few characters, which are first few words which are mentioned here, and after that, anything comes in, it will just ignore it. So that will cause a problem because now we are able to run a test method which doesn't belong to a particular given step. Right, so that's the reason why we have a dollar sign at the end. So if I just quickly add a dollar sign again, and if I run my test again, you would see that this time the test will not run. So when you run it, if you look at the logs, you would clearly see that it says that we don't have a step which implements this particular string or which implements this particular user action. So that is the reason we have a dollar at the end. This is called an anchor point, which means that the string ends here. And similarly, there is a hat operator, which means that the string starts here. So anything before it will not be ignored, but will be considered as as if it doesn't match, right? So if I write something like some user or just user, then only just user will be accepted, but some user will not be accepted here. So that is basically the reason why we have the dollar operator and the hat operator. The dollar operator says that the string should end here. The hat operator says that the string should start with the user. It cannot start with anything else. So these two things collectively are called anchor operators. So just keep a note of that. We do have anchor operators. No, we don't have it here. So basically till now we have learned anchor operators, and we have learned that the expression here is basically a regular expression. Now to understand the next topic, which is capture group, let us just take an example here. Let's say this was the scenario, and let me just correct my test step now. Now let us again go back to the same scenario that we wrote. In this scenario, let us take a look at the AND step. The AND step says that user logs in using a valid username and password. Now the valid username and password, we have just said that there is a valid username and password. We haven't specified the values that we need to enter. The values are basically hard coded in the step definition. If you go to the AND step definition, you would see that we have hard coded the values of username and password. Right? This is not an ideal situation. We never want to hard code values here in the step definitions. Now, let me give you an example for that. Let's say I want to run the same test again, and this time the valid username and password has changed. So I would have to come back here, modify my code, and then build it again and then run my test, which is not required, and which is a very inefficient way of writing tests. So what I will do, I will accept these two values, which is username and passwords, as string values in the method. Right now you would see that the method does not have any input argument, but right now using capture groups, I will accept the username and passwords from the string, from the scenario step string directly. And how we can do that? We can simply do that by, first thing we have to do is just we have to modify it like as if we are entering the right username and password. So the right username is learn cucumber using valid username, learn cucumber, and password, which is I don't remember the password, so I will go back here and I will simply look at it, and here is the password. So I will go back to the feature file. There you go. So now I have modified my step to say user logs in using a valid username, learn cucumber, and password, test password. Right. So I am now passing in the value of username and password in this scenario step itself. But the problem is that now the step definition will not match with uh, with the step here that I mentioned. Now you would see that this particular method will not be picked up against this particular this particular scenario step. The reason being the string has changed completely. Now how can you accommodate that? There are two things to learn here. First thing is, how can we accept the username and password? So let me just show you how we can do that. First thing you would do is you would just copy everything straightforward, copy it, go back to login step definition, and paste it between the hat and the dollar operator. Just paste it like this. Don't worry about anything else, just paste it. Now, and let me just expand it. Now look at the string. Wherever you have a variable that you want to pass in as an argument, just make sure that you do a dot asterisk bracket ends. All you have to do is just do this for all the variables that you want to pass in, simply like this. So when you do that, you create a capture group. Okay. Yeah. So when you create that, you create a capture group. So basically a bracket open dot asterisk bracket close, it forms a capture group. We will talk about the meaning of it, what this particular syntax means, but for the time being, just understand that whatever variable you want to pass in, you can pass in using the dot asterisk between the brackets, right? So if you do this, everything should work fine. Now learn cucumber and test password will go in as an input parameter to your method. Now once you have this, you have to modify your method to have string username and string password as the input argument, right? Because now Cucumber will now Cucumber will identify these two variables from the string, and and it will pass it to your method. So once you have it, all you have to do is just use it. So you will instead of the hard-coded value, you will put username, and instead of the hard-coded password value, you will just use password. Simple as that. Once you have done this, just go back and run your tests again. And let's see what happens this time. Um, Chrome opens up, it goes to store.demoqa.com. Then you would see that it has this time entered password learn, which is basically there is a spelling mistake here, but it has mentioned something here, right? It was able to find out some values here, and let us see what these values are. These are LEAR cucumber and LEAR cucumber, right? So this is how you can pass, and let me just correct this and let me rerun the test. Let us close everything else. When you rerun the test, this time right values will be passed. So you would see that it will pass learn cucumber and the right password. So we are able to log in, right? So we are here, we are able to log in into the website, and the test will pass. And you can see that the test has passed successfully. If you open the test further, you would see that these were the values that were being passed, right? So this is how you create a capture group. A capture group is basically this syntax. Wherever you want a variable to be inserted in, just remove the variable from the string and use a bracket dot asterisk bracket, and then again bracket dot asterisk bracket, and rest of the semantics and syntax remains the same. Now let us analyze what we have done here. So I will just copy the string here. I will open a notepad. I will copy the string, and I will go back here in the login feature file. I will copy this string, and let us see what we have done here. So you would see that we have exactly same strings, but wherever we wanted to create a variable, there is a capture group, a dot asterisk, bracket dot asterisk. So what Cucumber does, it uses the Java parser or whatever parser it is using, whatever regular expression engine that it is using, it will just uh, try to match this string with something here. Right, so it will say that okay, I'm able to match the first 6 words, and then after that there is a capture group. Now the meaning of this should be read something like this. Dot means any character. It could be an alphabet, it could be a numeric value, it could be a special character, it could be any character, and any character occurrence once. That means that a dot represents only one character. It could be number or alphabet as explained earlier, but the asterisk here means any number of times. Any number of times a character can come here, which will be this, and as soon as you encounter and, whatever is between username and, which is here a username and basically username space and space, and whatever is in between this, take it, make it as an input argument and capture it inside a variable. Similarly here at the end, you would see that whatever starts from password space is and till the end of the line, it is taken as a one parameter and it is put inside a variable and passed on to the test method. Right, there you go, which in this case becomes test password 123 at the rate. Right, so this is basically how you can create a capture group. Now this gives you a very beautiful way of expressing things, because at this point in time you will just create one method, and this method will accept any username and password. So here you can simply write as test username, and let us keep the password same, or let us just have a password as EW. Right, just for simplicity. So if I run my test again, let's see what username and password do we get. So it opens up our browser. It goes to store.demoqa.com, then it goes to the login page, and you can see that now it has test username and the 2-character password that we entered, and it uses this instead of learn cucumber and the other password that we had mentioned earlier. So this is how you can create capture groups, and capture groups can help you pass in parameters or values to your test methods. One important usage, or this is an interview question basically, one important usage of a capture group is that using capture group you can create generic methods. So for example, this method, if you read this line, it basically talks about logging into a into the store.demoqa website using a given username and password. So basically the action is login, and the username and password are the variables which will change, right? You can have different username and passwords. So basically what you will do, you will go back to your login step definitions and you will create a generic method, and you will name that method as login demo QA, right? So now this method can serve multiple tests. All you have to do, let's say we have another test, we will just copy it for the sake of simplicity and being quick. I will just copy this, and let's say I have another test where I have to log in again, and this time I have to use a new login username, learn cucumber, and let's say the password is what do we call it, test password 123 or whatever that password was, right? So basically now I can use the same method to log in using a different username and password. So that is the power of having capture groups in your steps. You can create uh, things which are basically more generic and can be reused again and again. So as compared to the previous step definition, this particular method right here can be reused again and again with different username and passwords. So that is the whole idea of having capture groups. You can pass in values, you can pass in variables, and you can have more structure to your step definitions. You can have reusable generic methods. All right, so that was all about the capture groups. Let me just quickly see what we have next. We have talked about regular expressions and we have talked about the anchor tags. Uh, we did talk about the dot and the asterisk operator. I will go back and I will explain it again so that you remember it easy and nicely. So dot means any character and asterisk means any number of times. So here what it means that anything which is between username space and will fall into the capture group. So capture group starts with opening brackets and closing brackets and ends with a closing bracket. In between, you will have your regular expression that you want to catch. So basically at this point in time, I'm just catching everything. Later on, we will modify it to catch a particular type of strings, a particular pattern in the strings. But for the time being, just use this and you would see that you can pass in parameter values. Alright, so that was the dot and the asterisk operator and capture group again. Now let us quickly do a small exercise and let us write a method, write the navigation method using capture group. Right, so I will go back here. I will simply go back to the step scenario steps. For simplicity, I will remove the new scenario that we created, and I will go back to the first step that we wrote earlier. The first step is user is on store.demoqa.com. Now the point is that the user could be on any website, right? It's not necessary that you are on store.demoqa.com. Let's say on a different environment, this changes to staging.store.demoqa.com on a different environment. And this is what it changes to. So in that case, what will you do? How will you have a pattern which can actually capture a URL, right? So you would definitely want to have a given method, given step definition, which can accept where we can input the URL. So let us see how we can convert this into a step definition which accepts any URL. So let's say to start with, we will just copy the current the current scenario step, and we will try to modify it. So I will copy it again here, and I want to keep this part of the string as constant, right? But I want to change this part. So what I will do, I will create a capture group, and I would say dot asterisk, and then I want com at the end, right? So what it means is that my string should end with a com, and anything from on space to com, basically till this point, should be passed in as a variable to the method. Now let us quickly pick this string up, go back to the step definition, and modify this. So I will just yeah, let me just correct this. Yeah, so I will just copy the new string value, and as I have used a capture group, I will simply say string URL, and then I will pass the URL right here. And let us see how it works now. Let us see which URL it takes us to. And here in this case, it is user is on http store.demoqa.com. Right. This is the URL. Let us run the test again. And we expect that we are navigated to demoqa.com. And you can see that it navigates to demoqa.com again. And this value, the URL this time has been passed in as a capture group instead of a hard-coded string. So what I mean by that is that you can simply change this, and now, or let's go to our website only. Right, now I can change the URL as long as it has a dot, it has a com at the end. It will be considered as a URL, and it will be passed on to the step definition. Now let us run this again, and let me just close everything, and let me rerun it, and let's see where we navigate to uh, in this case. You would see that we have navigated toolsqa.com instead of a store.demoqa.com. Right, so basically whatever we pass here, we navigate to that URL, and this here gives us the ability to create a generic function which can be reused again and again in different scenarios. So all you have to do is you have to change the method name navigate to from the old earlier long string to a simple properly named method, which is navigate to. Any newcomer who looks at your code and he looks at this method, he would be able to find that, okay, it's a navigate method. And here in the feature file, all you have to do is wherever you want to navigate, all you have to do is just write something like this. For example, I copy the test again. All I have to do is this time I have to navigate to store.demoqa.com. demoqa.com. Simple as that. Right, so this is how you can create capture groups, and this is the power of capture group. It helps you pass in variables, and it gives you the ability to make your functions generic enough so that they can be reused again and again, and it avoids code duplicacy. Uh, as you can create generic functions, you will have less duplicate code. You can reuse the code again and again, and it contributes to a better design of your test framework or whatever way you have chosen to write your tests. So this was pretty much it that we had in the class. This class might have been little technically intensive, but once you go through the videos a couple of times and you try to practice, you would understand everything that we have discussed here. Now, before I leave, I will just ask you to go through regular expressions Java, just go through the first document that comes in. It talks in details about regular expressions and what it actually means, and you can utilize this information to write better and efficient methods here. Uh, because Cucumber relies on regular expression to do pattern matching. It tries to match the string which is here with the string that you have written here. So it uses regular expression to match those values. So understanding regular expressions will help you have better methods in your test code. So with that, I would like to close the class. See you in the next class. Thank you.